guys, how's it going? Welcome to the program. Hey, listen, I know you didn't see me for a broadcast, and I ran a rerun of another broadcast. And you're right, I was on the bulldozer. You may have been following on some of our family land, which has taken up a tremendous amount of my time because I have to be, relatively on the east coast of the country, not my normal stomping ground. Been having to clean up from the devastation of Helene. Finally, after all this time, on the home stretch, and the home stretch is the down trees that had to be cleaned up and whatever. And we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trees. The last little batch is loaded, ready to remove. And there's probably, I don't know, 200 stumps that still have to be pushed out. So I'm spending my time on a bulldozer digging out stumps and recarving, right? I got stung by a horsefly right there. You see that? Damn thing's not going away, but it hurt. But got stung by a horsefly. But I've been carving through one area that did a lot of flood damage. Taking a look at the land, it's easy to see when trees are down. A agriculture catchment pond for watering, right? So I've been pushing the dozer, right? I don't know if you've ever worked on a dozer. It's pretty fun. I'm actually fairly good at it. But it's just, I find it kind of peaceful, pushing around the dirt, shaping the earth, making it happen and turn what was destruction into something good. And that something good was, of course, getting an agricultural water catchment pond to help with future flooding in it. So that's what I've been doing. By the way, speaking of, hang on. Family. Kelsey's mom's not doing well. When you're part of the program here, you're part of a family, not just a program. And I'm probably one of the only people. You like the batteries with my shirt? Yeah. Part of the only people. And what this is I just decided not to change. I got to get back out on a dozer from here. You're way off in the woods, the mountains and stuff. You wear bright colors so everybody can see you in case something happens. So this is my wilderness signal shirt. Anyway, Kelsey's mom's not doing well. She's been dealing with it for a while. And by the way, if you are here in our program, it's not about fans. It's not about followers or any of that. We're all nothing more than family and friends who are in this shit together, right? And as we have to battle everything that goes on out there, we have family things to deal with. Y'all watch me go through my father dying, right? And so we're friends and family here. And Kelsey, so sorry. I'd give you a hug. I'd try to tear you up. I'd try to slip you the tongue, but I'd give you the hug. It's okay. We're family. I'm from Arkansas. That kind of shit's allowed. But I know it's tough and you're going through it. And we're all here for you. And I just want you to know that you're loved and you're part of a very important family here. And I'm sorry you're having to deal with that, right? And whatever load we can bear to help out, we will. And we have, folks, we're family here. It's just true. We know each other. We know what each other's going through. We know when each other's going through operations. We know when husbands and wives have cancer. We know when people are having, back surgery or, whatever, breast implants. Anyway, all the best. Take care. So, folks, today's program, we're going to do a little bit of different and take a break because we're going to cover what's cool. We're not going to talk about all the stress and shock and all and everything that's going on. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco, and I'm very proud to partner with the folks at Goldco. And I want you to, if you would please consider going to jovanlovesgold.com. I don't know why most people don't notice the trend. You've seen the stuff going on with Cracker Barrel? Cracker Barrel? Yeah. There used to be an old timer sitting on a barrel. It's a joke. Cracker Barrel. Now they removed the cracker. Yes, they took the dude off the barrel. Ironically, the same big companies, Vanguard, BlackRock, owned the majority shares of Cracker Barrel. Now they're eliminating that. Folks, this push and pull and all that stuff still going on. Countries around the world are hoarding gold more than ever. They know something we don't, and I want you to pay attention. And all I'm asking you to do, it's very simple. Go to jovanlovesgold.com, request your free gold and silver kit today, because now's the time to protect your money with gold and silver. Most people think it's only about a retirement account or 401k or IRA. Part of that is, my family, we got hit on both ends. One family place is at the mouth of where, when Helene came in and made landfall and it boiled up in the mountains, right? And pushed it all back down with the flooding and destroyed everything. Well, literally my family land. You go to the opposite end and you had the devastating floods in Hunt, Texas. Damn it. That's my family land to grow up. Sometimes I kind of feel like I'm sandwiched in between some of these things that happen. And so we've faced a lot. Most people with a retirement account, something happens and you never know how much, you never really realize how much you have invested in family lands or properties or whatever, right? Until you have to replace miles of fence. Or you got two choices, right? Trees are down everywhere and you decide, well, can't afford to move them or do anything with them. Let them rot. But then you're also going to get fined from the state. Isn't it? Yeah, you have to clean it up. And people don't realize just how much that cost. And it comes out of nowhere. So if you had to dip into your retirement savings or whatever, they're going to ding you. It's your money you've been putting in forever, right? And then all of a sudden you want to take it out because you got a crisis on your hand, got to repair a roof or something. They're going to charge you 50% penalty. And it's your damn money. You can protect against stuff like that, right? You can protect against stuff like that. And so you've got to know how to do it. Gold and silver is a big part of that. And you can just make that maneuver to keep from taking a ding and get control of your own money. I'm just asking you to go to jovanlovesgold.com and check it out, get the information. But I can tell you the net effect, we finally got, we lost in, where water would carve, when big storms come to carve, we lost the approximately 6 acres. That's a lot of soil loss and stuff. 6 acres of land had to be completely restored and rebuilt. 6 acres, right? Now, of course, you can do some crafty things to rebuild it. You're dealing with all these down trees. You got all that brush. It's actually an interesting trick. You can take all that brush, you can jam it into where it's been carved out by storms, but then you got to cover it with dirt, which has washed away, but you can pack it down. It's called carbon sequestering. You can pack it down and rebuild the earth and clean up at the same time. But 6 acres disappeared. That's a lot of land, right? What would that be? A normal house in a neighborhood may, if you're lucky, be on a 1/4 acre. So that would be the equivalent of 24 houses. That'd be the equivalent of a neighborhood street gone, washed away. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. And yes, we're all in this together. Now, here's what we're going to do. We are going to just kind of look at things that I think are cool. Now, let me define this. It's just what I think is cool, right? Random things that I find cool that I think you might find cool too. You might learn something from it. You might go, oh, that's awesome. I want to check on that. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. And so I'm going to give you a short 2-minute break to share this link with everybody and to get your mind in the right place, just to have a little bit of laughs. Let's get started with this first, and then we'll get to it.
Oh no, a leak. You must be the plumber.
I heard you need someone to fix your pipes.
I've been waiting for you all day.
Looks like you have a big problem.
How big are we talking?
Very big. Maybe I should go down there and take a good look. Microfractures in your drain assembly are compounded by gasket failure, culminating in a breach at the P-trap compression junction. Do I hear banging? Maybe I can help with the banging. Nope, all finished. So soon.
I'm afraid we don't have any cash. Is there some other way we can
pay you? Oh, I'm so glad you asked.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I have a couple of payment plans. 4 interest payments every 2 weeks, or 0% financing for 6 months. Pay it off in one lump sum.
Is that moaning I heard? Bonsoir. I was just shampooing my kitty.
Ah, how was the water pressure?
Why don't you come see for yourself, mister?
Forget it. He really only cares about the plumbing.
Doritos Golden Sriracha. Spicy,
Oh, yeah?
but not too spicy.
Knock, knock. Did anyone order a extra large sausage?
That would be me.
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians? The elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd. Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, folks, welcome to the program. You know, every now and then we have to take a break from the political crap that's going. Now, that's why I love that video, that kind of double speak where politicians are saying one thing but meaning something else is what we live with. And sometimes we need a break from that crap. So welcome to That's Cool Volume 2. I started doing this. So when you go back in the archives, we got 5,000 hours of archives. When you go back in the archives of our videos and everything we've done, it might be easier to find it instead of giving each one a headline. You kind of don't know what it is. So I started just to categorize some of these. And frankly, when you think about, as my broadcasting schedule started, original program 7 a.m. and then 7 p.m. And then as we had to start working through things, you got to 7 a.m. and then rerun at 7 p.m. It's just nice every now and then to take a break. You know what I mean? Just to take a break. Because sometimes this stuff can be too much. Now, we're seeing a lot of political theater. I don't know if you've listened to the Jizzy Lane, Maxwell taped interviews. I haven't yet. I've been trying to find the transcripts. But I hear the audio tapes were released, I think. I don't know. But now analysts are going, oh, did you hear her pause right there? That means this. Anyway, I'm tired of that crap, right? I'm just tired of that crap. And every now and then we kind of have to take a break. And I think in this take a break, we should just let our minds dream a little bit and be as far away from the political crap we're doing. So here's one I've seen. You've seen people turning drones, get bigger drones, and doing these air bikes, right? They got the little flying fans on them. Then you've seen, people doing remote airplanes and stuff. But most people don't know there are small jet engines, literally, that are, you can buy would it be RC code, radio controlled planes. And one of them is you can buy one that has jet engines, miniature jet engines. Well, a guy has taken that concept with a miniature jet engine. What kind of trouble can you get in? Put one on an airboat, right? A miniature jet engine. Check out what he has made. He's literally riding a jet engine. Now, I know you were thinking like James Bond jetpack. Remember when that was just the coolest shit in the world? And we saw it, James Bond, and the guy goes, right? No, this guy's literally riding a rocket. I'm going to give you one thing in case you didn't notice. The piece of plywood he takes off on is so it doesn't kick up dirt. But look at the plywood. It's charred. That's the amount of heat and flame coming out of this thing. And I know it looks like a miniature barbecue grill. If you got under it, you would be. I know some people will say, wait a minute, that's just artificial intelligence. No, I went through that myself. And it does look like the little crotch rocket from Star Wars. Yes, you fly it the wrong way, it's going to fry your nuts. Look at the trees underneath. This sucker's real. You can see the thrust hitting the ground. This is pretty badass. you have to admit that looks pretty darn cool. But you're also asking the right question, like, where's the fuel gauge? Somebody put it earlier. This is why reason number 13,654 why women live longer than men. You have to admit it's cool. Now, for me, I'm a drone ultralight pilot, a pilot myself. I would do it. It's awesome. And of course, the FAA would be all over it. But put in chat, if you could ride one of those. Now, here's what I think it is. It's one of the jet engines. The consumption of those are pretty high, and I don't think there's a big fuel pack on it, but the idea is there, and it's all about stability. And of course, it's thrust down. It's kind of like a Harrier jet. So that's what rages up, and that's why it's got a slight tilt in the motor where you can get forward propelling. I can imagine, the firewall is located between your seat and your sack. I could imagine if you could really test that thing out, right? Do it. It's pretty interesting. And it shows we're on the cusp technology-wise of doing some really cool things. And I'll give you an example. Many friends and other people freak out because, I spend a lot of my time in helicopters or whatever the case may be. And unique flying equipment and drones and stuff said, I'd never do that. But technology's come so far that if you were, flying a 103, a ultralight or something like this, you can do it nowadays. It's not hard to get your license. But now they make these things so much better safe that literally you can hit a panic button and your plane will throw a parachute. You think you're going down or whatever, losing control, boom, you hit a button because you're flying small experimental craft, boom, it'll throw parachutes and you'll just float down, right? There's no reason try to ride it to the ground or anything like that. And if none of y'all have ever looked into experimental aircraft or ultralight flying machines, my largest UAV I have is about 70 feet. It's massive. But instead of a small flying vehicle that can stay up for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then, of course, you have intermediate craft where you can do a few hundred miles. This one can stay up 24 hours, right? But it's interesting, right? Think somebody's brain can actually do that and figure it out. We have so much ability to do things. And when I think about this, I think about society. Right now, there is no reason scientifically that we have tires that wear out. I guess you know that. There's zero reason we have tires that wear out. There's zero reason that we have to have tires that have air and can go flat. But the reason they do is for what's called planned obsolescence. So they can keep on replacing it and replacing it. So things like that always make me think about the ingenuity of mankind. By the way, how many of you are fishermen? And what if you could fish? Now, this is where I like the ingenuity of foreign countries. What if you could figure a way of fish and you really didn't have any fishing pole or boat or anything like that? Maybe you were like me, whether it be the lake or the river or whatever, and you find somebody's old fishing string and it's like, oh man. And you try to tie up bait or stuff. And by the way, if you've never seen drone fishing, drone fishing. You see these guys with big rods and try to throw them out there. You take your little drone aircraft. You have about 40 feet of drop line on your deep sea rig. You're on the beach. You put a little paper clip on the bottom of the drone, a little bitty rubber band, and you fly it out there where you're looking down to where when you see the tuna on the other side of the surf, and you go down and you can let it drop, and you get your line all the way out there where the tuna are. If you've never seen drone fishing, check it out. No, there is dynamite fishing, and there is fishing by light. I'm contemplating tinkering with a device that would be fishing by light. It's really interesting stuff. Anyway, imagine if you had nothing and you had to creatively find a cool way to feed yourself. Check this out. No fishing gear, technically, and no boat. You can only assume, folks, that this is flour of some sort, just to share with you maybe what's going in it. I just think it's flour. Well, somebody says if you put cocaine in there, you catch a few more fish. Remember, this technique has a name because you have no equipment. You got to use what's on hand. Instead of fishing, it's called freezing because it's free.
அது கொஞ்சம் லாங் அடிக்கிறதுக்காக வாட்டமா லாங் அடிக்கிறதுக்காக வச்சுட்டு அது அப்படியே ஃபாலோ பண்ணி யார்
மாவுல இங்கே வரை கொட்டுங்க.
இருக்கா மீன்றா இருக்கா
மேல வந்து அவனோட பாட்டலா? ஓ, மீனை காப்பாத்திக்க. அவன் வெளில வரமாட்டான்.
Pretty creative, and I saw all the thing. It's called free base fishing or fishing with an 8-ball. Think about that. It looks like it's maybe a liter or 2-liter soda pop bottle. They cut, have the lid. They cut the butt of the bottle off, maybe punch some holes in it, and tie a string to it. Kind of like 3 or 4 coming up, and then tie it up here. Load it with flour and chunk it out on the water. And when the fish goes in, because they start going in to get that dough or whatever, the fish is in that cone. Promo code Coke fishing. Anyway, in that promo code in that cone, they go in that cone, and then when you pull, you can't pull them back out. That's pretty freaking creative. I wish I'd have known this when I was a kid. I could be fishing a lot more than freaking doing what we did, trying to catch fish with safety pins because we didn't have hooks. Let's watch it one more time.
அது கொஞ்சம் லாங் அடிக்கிறதுக்காக வாட்டமா யாரு லாங் அடிக்கிறதுக்காக வச்சுட்டு அது அப்படியே ஃபாலோ பண்ணி யாரு
மாவுல இங்கே வரை கொட்டுங்க.
இருக்கா மீன்றா இருக்கா
மேல வந்து அவனோட பாட்டலா? ஓ, மீனை காப்பாத்திக்க. அவன் வெளில வரமாட்டான்.
Now, that's kind of interesting. You have to admit, I do think it's a plastic bottle. Some of you are saying maybe it's a glass bottle. I don't know. And yes, he did chunk it way the hell out of there. You never have to worry about the game warden said, I'm not fishing. I'm feeding the fish. You think I could catch fish with this? Anyway, yeah, and it's freaking much cheaper than even chicken litters or fish or certainly bait, right? That's what's really cool about mankind is you can, necessity is the mother of invention. By the way, speaking of drones, we've been talking about drones. Militarily, just right when President Trump met with Putin in Alaska, it's just the fact that Zelensky, right, launched the largest drone attack ever. Watch this guy's technology he's working on. It's killer.
Here's a quick update on the new company I'm starting. Centradel is a robotics company developing counter-drone systems. Currently, there are few viable solutions against small, inexpensive, mass-produced FPV drones. Existing counter-drone systems are too expensive, too big, or too complex for large-scale deployment. Additionally, fiber optic and self-guided drones have rendered electronic jamming effectively useless. We believe the solution here is a relatively small, affordable, kinetic-based system that interfaces with available hardware. We have many improvements planned, so keep an eye out for more videos, and if you'd like to learn more, please visit centradel.com.
This is actually a growing space of development. I'll tell you a few things. One thing that I saw several years ago, which was really very interesting, the state came in and shut them down, but a fellow on a large ranch in Texas had taken his rifle and built a robotic arm and camera for it. So remotely you could shoot the rifle. Okay, so it's remote. And people would join a club or pay a fee, and you could sit at your desk and deer hunt. It was like going like gangbusters because people would pay a fee and sit there at their desk and literally shoot a live rifle hunting deer, right? Now, maybe because it was deer season, if you did it with hogs or whatever the case may be, but I thought that's a pretty cool and genius idea. And you got to have some stuff. Now, that protects it. Like you can teach a weapon to recognize it's a human and not fire. What you saw in some of the sighting with that was, it can sight the targets really quick. And then you saw it hit, boom, 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 boom. It just knows where the targets are, right? Etc. I think the farmer that was doing the deer hunting, because you asked what happened to the deer, my understanding is if anybody killed the deer, he went and retrieved it and they donated it, processed it and donated it to a food pantry. Anyway, technology can do this. It truly, 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 truly can do this. And a lot of this technology, like in Israel for the Iron Dome, this is kind of what it's doing for rockets and stuff. But you're going to see warfare on this type of level, and it's going to be a fast evolving area. I'll play that one for you again because it's just very cool.
Here's a quick update on...
That one was a shotgun. I don't know why they put it in there, but here you go.
Here's a quick update on the new company I'm starting. Centradel is a robotics company developing counter-drone systems. Currently, there are few viable solutions against small, inexpensive, mass-produced FPV drones. Existing counter-drone systems are too expensive, too big, or too complex for large-scale deployment. Additionally, fiber optic and self-guided drones have rendered electronic jamming effectively useless. We believe the solution here is a relatively small, affordable, kinetic-based system that interfaces with available hardware. We have many improvements planned, so keep an eye out for more videos, and if you'd like to learn more, please visit centradel.com.
Now, robotics has always amazed me, and there's a lot of good utility in robots. I think people forget, robots are going to replace the job. You forget, your freaking tractor's a robot, folks. Your skid steer, your shuttle, your forklift, your excavator, those are all forms of robots. Man always integrates with it and gets better. But I use robots in a lot of stuff I do. Like I was talking about drones, when we do exploration and we're either out in jungles or deserts or remote areas, I can plot on a map what I want to pre-survey before I send people in. And I can plot the drone, many different types, to go out and record the video area and then come back and we can look at everything in advance to understand before we go in. In most mountain communities, you might not know of them in your neighborhood, but if you're in mountain land and you have pretty serious declination in your pasture lands, a lot of it, you don't dare get up there with any type of tractor to mow it. Most people have robotic mowers, and most people don't even know that. Think of like a skid steer where it's got tracks and it's slow to the ground, but you'll remotely control and cut your areas, right? Etc. They have all kinds of very interesting technology. Now, some of the things I've dabbled in exploration is I created we had one out the other day. I created basically a 1080p camera, like your phone, your camera and your camera phone. I'll show you relative size. I created a 1080p camera that was about the size of this little adapter. And in it, all it had was terminal power and camera and storage, right? Enough to run the camera, enough to store, whatever. And we take these things and we literally tether them, stuff them into a shotgun shell, but you do a Kevlar tether, or I've even done them with a 40 millimeter round. You load them into the rubber ballistic. You load your shell, you got a Kevlar tether that won't burn when you fire, and you literally will fire them across canyons, like if we're looking for caves or whatever, or looking for hideouts or whatever the case may be, and you can fire into them, and we literally send that bullet across that canyon into that hole, and it records the entire way. It's recording, boom, right? And then when that projectile hits, all you do is, you just basically haul it back via the Kevlar line. When it comes back, the camera's destroyed, yes. But then in the solid state card or the SD card you pop the SD card out, you put it in, and you're able to see everything in between that shot, right? And so you can do exploration that way. You can't do them with GoPros. It'll destroy your GoPros and they'll change the trajectory. So we made it remember the old Trident gum? It's about the size of a Trident gum. Another thing that I have is I literally have 6-wheeled, 6-axle articulating crawlers. I'll bring one out one day and show you. The same thing. We'll have video, we'll have sound, we'll have FLIR, we'll have radio waves like sonar, and we can literally drive them into these caverns and not go in. you don't, in that particular case, you don't use a wireless one because you're not going to get the repeating distance, right? But I've got the ability to send a kilometer of wire that will send back a live video feed, right? It was technology made for video conferences, to get your cameras there, a little bitty card. We just repositioned it and put it with a Cat5, which is like you plug in your internet computer on one end, again, Kevlar or metal line. You drive the drones in to these places and you got lights and you can articulate and control everything. And if it gets stuck, you just pull it right back out. But there's really cool things you can do with technology, just kind of, thinking about it. Speaking of that, right? And you saw Drone Killer. Some people think, 3D printers, that's not worth it. What I'm going to print in 3D, I can only print so many little Legos or whatever. Check out what this guy did with his 3D printer.
I think it's insane. You can download a pair of shoes off the internet and 3D print them in your living room. I printed these on my Bamboo A1 and they look great, and this week I'm going to test how they actually do in real life. So today I'm going to do a little water test to see how well these hold up when they get wet. My feet did get a little wet. I wouldn't say these are terribly waterproof. So I hit a few stores today and been walking around for a couple hours. My feet feel great. They're really soft. The traction on these have been pretty solid for hiking. Your feet do kind of slide around a little bit in the shoe though, with them being so soft. Day 7, we're just gonna do some final tests. All right, final thoughts on these. Are they as good as a regular shoe? No, but they're a close second. They're really comfortable. I think they'll last a long time, and for the price, you can't beat it.
Just print your shoe. Just print your shoe. Now, 3D printing is I was going to show you some models. 3D printing is a big part of what I do, because when I'm ideating a device or a thing, like our home building project, I can literally build the home in 1/21th scale because we just print them out and we test them and we see it. For everybody to understand 3D printing, because some people just think of those little tchotchkes and stuff. You can print shoes. You can print weapons. You can. One of the most interesting things that I find that's really cool, and by the way, folks, that's all I'm doing, showing you stuff that's cool, right? But in the old car business, like if you're a car restorer, maybe, I've restored a old Mustang or whatever, but even older, if you can find the drawings for the product, or let's say you break a gear and one of the gear nipples, drives is broke off, you can now scan it with your mobile phone. You just hold it over and scan all sides. Now you've got it in front of you, and you can say, okay, see these little things here? You can replace this one that's obviously broke. AI will do it. And now you got a 3D model of that part you need. You can now print the part. And I'm not talking plastic. Did you know you can print metals? You can print carbon, you can print metals. Hell, you can even now print gold or silver and jewelry. You don't mold it anymore. The freaking printer will print it. Right? So when you think about 3D printing technology, there's really some awesome stuff you can do with it. Can't print your food, but I guess you could try to eat it. But you can now literally print anything. In fact, people have set up really interesting home businesses, especially like car restorers. They just make sure they got a CAD of the part. If it's really a rare part that, people are trying to find on eBay and paying through the nose, and it's not a law. There's people that are set up business printing. And yes, printing has a fiber. It's a little bitty noodle, like a spaghetti noodle, comes in a reel, and it prints it. Okay. But that's for plastic. How do you print metal? How do you print gold? It's the same thing. It's a filament that feeds through the system that is gold, or that is silver, or is aluminum, whatever you want. And those will heat that metal and poop it out and draw it and make it. It's amazing. Yes. And now, 3D printers used to be wildly expensive. You can get a 3D printer and have fun with it for a few $100 now. Yes, there's a company that 3D prints houses. It's with concrete and it looks like poop lines, but they do print a house. I think it's stupid because there's no insulation or anything, but you can do it. You can do it. And yes, they are now printing, and they can do this. I haven't seen it deployed, but they can take, you grow stem cells into meat. They can actually grow body parts and then print them like a heart valve. And so 3D printing is pretty amazing. And that's just one of the ways you can use 3D printing that most people don't talk about. Hey, you ever get tired of people talking on their phone in public? Annoying asses talking too loud? Here's a little piece of fun technology. It comes from the intelligence and warfare side, but here's kind of a very interesting disruptor.
A speech jammer sends the person's own voice back to them with less than a second of delay, confusing the brain. Demonstrated on annoying co-workers, later Ben Jordan, with a similar mechanism, proved the effectiveness when he offered $100 to anyone who was able to read one paragraph from a book while being blasted with it.
Dedicated to this.
Yes, it's a device. You can do directional sound. You can hear directionally. You can send sound directionally. A lot of the PSYOP operation, MK Ultra stuff, they literally can focus on a person, focus on their ear, and whisper in their ear. Give them talking in their head. I kid you not, it's a true technology. So this is kind of the same. And you can take the person talking. It sends their own voice back to them, right to their ears. Only they hear it. Nobody else hears it. Just sends it right back to them. And of course, they begin to hear this double speak, but they know it's their own voice, and it just fucks them up. Transmits right to their skull.
A speech jammer sends the person's own voice back to them with less than a second of delay, confusing the brain. Demonstrated on annoying co-workers, later Ben Jordan, with a similar mechanism, proved the effectiveness when he offered $100 to anyone who was able to read one paragraph from a book while being blasted with it.
Dedicated to this.
That would be fun at a presidential debate. We know it would work. We watched Biden do it, although he did it organically. But I think that would be awesome to screw with people. But that's just me. Hey, here's another tech play. A little bit of do-it-yourself tech play.
What you're all about, yeah. You spin me right round, call me when your love runs out, 'cause I know what you're all about, yeah. Hold my tongue, I'm broken, lost control, I'm hoping you'll come back.
Yeah, he made his own self-pay ring. Of course, you can do this with your phone, but that little chip in your card, your credit card, he just basically made an encapsulated card, like it's in your card. He took it off his credit card, and all he's using is a little bit of copper, the card, and then what's the word I'm looking for? Transparent. I'm having a brain fart. Crap. Somebody tell me in chat the word I'm looking for. Acrylic? Not acrylic. What is it when you pour in the resin? Thank you. Don't eat it on your nachos. Pour it in the resin, right? And harden it up and making it, right? And basically now you have a near field communication locked in epoxy payer. People can be really creative. You don't want to lose that ring.
You spin me right round, call me when your time runs out, 'cause I know what you're all about, yeah. Hold my tongue, I'm broken, lost control, I'm hoping you'll come back, you'll come back.
Yeah, just a pay ring. I think that's really interesting. People come up with really creative things. I want to show you something. I think probably the copper in it, although your body will emit electricity, I think it's mainly for structure and integrity of the resin. That's probably what they're doing, right? Or to give it some artsy design. So sometimes cool things are just a cool story. This is a story I had no idea. I had no idea. It's something we take for granted. TJ say that was a Dick Tracy ring. You mean a cock ring? I don't think that's the same thing. Anyway, oh, okay. You know that sometimes people have to be the first to do it, right? First to create something or whatever. Sometimes cool technology happened long ago, but nobody gets credit for it. This is a story of innovation. It's a story of using your brain. And everybody, as part of this broadcast, this next little bit I'm going to share with you changed your world, and you don't even know it. And what's sad about it, it should be something that's taught historically to all school-age kids, period. I love this story. I didn't know it, but I think you'll like it too.
Did you know that pretty much all the vanilla we eat comes from one invention from a 12-year-old boy?
Aww.
Yeah. For about 200 years, it was only ever imported from Mexico because it only was pollinated by a very specific small type of bee that lived in Mexico. And then people tried to grow it in different parts of the tropical world. And in fact, Réunion, which is a French island in the Indian Ocean, that was the location for an innovation which absolutely exploded the vanilla market. So this was in 1841. As a young enslaved boy, he's about 12 years old, called Edmund Albius. He's a long, kind of thin stick of grass, and he would basically squidge the male and female bits together in what's called a marriage. It's quite intricate. You have to move a little flap called a rostellum. It's a bit like picking a lock. He was the first person to successfully hand-pollinate a vanilla orchid.
It's kind of amazing to think that that's actually still how they basically do it.
It's still how they do it.
Do you think kids know that story? Do you think anybody knows that story about it was a 12-year-old who can do great things, much less he was considered a slave? He was a black kid. Isn't that awesome? I know a little bit about this, weeding in there, lifting the flap, parting the lips and stuff, but he did it with vanilla.
Did you know that pretty much all the vanilla we eat comes from one invention from a 12-year-old boy?
Aww.
Yeah. For about 200 years, it was only ever imported from Mexico because it only was pollinated by a very specific small type of bee that lived in Mexico. And then people tried to grow it in different parts of the tropical world. And in fact, Réunion, which is a French island in the Indian Ocean, that was the location for an innovation which absolutely exploded the vanilla market. So this was in 1841. As a young enslaved boy, he's about 12 years old, called Edmund Albius. He's a long, kind of thin stick of grass, and he would basically squidge the male and female bits together in what's called a marriage. It's quite intricate. You have to move a little flap called a rostellum. It's a bit like picking a lock. He was the first person to successfully hand-pollinate a vanilla orchid.
It's kind of amazing to think that that's actually still how they basically do it.
It's still how they do it.
Isn't that awesome? I think that's very interesting. And we don't know these stories. And there's tons of these stories, like a pop quiz. What is the item that built the wealth of England, let's say 15, 16, 1700s? What was their wealth that made them one of the wealthiest nations in the world? What was it? Do you know? Anybody? Put it in chat if you know what it was. And don't look it up. Somebody said tea. Wow, you're incorrect. Guess again. What was it? I know you think tea, and that's a damn good idea. By the way, one of the things I'm experimenting with on one of the family farms wasn't opium, wasn't tea. One of the things I'm experimenting with is one whole mountainside got wiped out. And so now it's all cleaned up, and we're going to plant tea. We're going to plant tea. It wasn't silk. I will tell you where the silk capital was. Do you know where most of the silk was produced? The United States of America. It was all on the eastern seaboard, Pennsylvania, etc. And it got decimated with synthetic fabrics. Not tobacco. Not voyages on ships. Not cotton. What built the wealth of England, we'll say Tudor on, that funded everything, made them a superpower, was wool, sheep, wool. Absolutely, was wool. When wool was the biggest thing, it's incredible to watch wool made out of, lambskin and stuff. Another bit of trivia. If you had England, meaning the crown owning land, who was the second single largest landowner in England after the crown? Do you know who that was? The church. You're right, Mr. Hader. It was the church. And here's a very interesting thing. When you think about church wealth, it's the same with, the Catholic Church, Vatican. They're one of the largest corporations in the world and landowners. But the church owned the second most amount of land. And in England, where you actually don't own your land, you rent it, it was the monasteries that owned the land. You would become a farmer. You would rent from them to get bigger land. You had to follow their rules and do it. You could live there and do it. And if you made a profit, it was great for you. But the church was the trader. They had all the contracts for wool and everything else, super high standards. But you wonder how church got profitable. And by the way, they still are a corporation. And that's the way it works. Okay. This next one, some people think creativity is only inventing things or gadgets or whatever. Sometimes just having yes. And somebody said sheep shit. Is sheep shit good food fertilizer? Well, since I have experience with sheep shit, I firmly believe that sheep poo is even far better than rabbit poo. You can use cow manure. You don't use horse manure because there's too much uric acid in it from the pee with it. I've tried them all. But I'm telling you, sheep shit, freaking magical in your gardens. Freaking magical. I've never seen things take off as fast as if you can get sheep manure. And most people never think about that and get it. But it is a kick-ass fertilizer. And rabbit poop has nothing on it. And rabbit poop stuff's really good. And that's when you tell your little cousins, hey, there's some cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Try it. Anyway, sheep shit. Sheep shit. Find the sheep farmers in your area if you're growing, and they'll let you scoop it out of their barns and stuff. It's black gold, folks. I'm telling you. Sheep shit. Anyway, sometimes what's really cool is not really inventing something. It's just being creative, right? I know that's some deep shit, but hey, get it while you can. We store it. When we can get a hold of sheep shit and get it in bulk and do it by truckloads, we store it and cover it and have it. And you got to put it someplace where it doesn't get rain, because if you set it out in the rain, you lose the poo tea. Pooty. Yes. The rain hits the poop, and this really dark tea comes off of it, and that's what you really want. That's where the minerals are. And what I do, just so you have an example, get you a 5-gallon bucket. You know how on your power drill, you can get that little mashed potato whisker thing and you're stirring your paints, zzz, right? So take your power drill, take your paint stirrer, it's got about a 2-foot flange on it. It's got that little head on it to mix, like dough mixer or dough forks. Take your 5-gallon buckets. Go to the farm store and buy you some alfalfa cubes. Yeah, an auger. Thank you. Alfalfa cubes. Like you feed cattle. They're squares about yay big. Alfalfa cubes. While the grass is still green, they cut it, they dry it, boom. And it's feed, but in little briquette form. So you take your 5-gallon bucket, you put about 1/3 of that pellet in it, and you can use alfalfa pellets if you want. Put 1/3 of pellets in it, and then fill the bucket with about 3/4 water and let it set overnight. What happens is the fibers in the alfalfa will let go from the bricks and let it go. Now you got this little short fiber strand soup. Okay? So the water's green. Get you a scoop of sheep shit. Put you, like a thin shovel, not a big shovel, but, the thin scooping shovel. Get you a little shovel of sheep shit, put it in the bucket, add a little bit more water, and then turn your little blender on it, and you make poop soup. Now, let me tell you why you do this. Number one, you're basically making a fertilizer tea for your garden. Okay? It's in a 5-gallon bucket. So it's this very rich green tea with all these minerals and stuff on it. Okay? It has an interesting effect when you do it with alfalfa. All the juices from the alfalfa become like a tea extract. When you pour it on your garden in your rows, you can make it with rabbit poop too. When you pour it on your garden beds or your rows, all of the water in the soup, of course, goes down to the roots. But you're left with a layer of all of the fibers, right? All of the fibers of the alfalfa, which is like little bits of hay. It becomes its own weed mat and weed barrier, and it slowly breaks down too. So it's a way to fertilize and to get covering in between your crops at the same time where you don't lose moisture. Right. Yeah. And I call it poo stew or poo soup. And that's what I use, and that's how I do it. Anyway, sometimes being creative is inventing. I want to show you one of the most interesting things I've seen with photography. This is so creative and so inventive. I think you'll like it. So this guy's photography, he makes acorn people, which is really interesting, little stick-in acorn people, and then just sets up very interesting shots. Of course, got a high-speed camera, right? And look at the shots you get. That's some really stuff. I'll let you play this again because I know just a minute ago I stirred up some shit, but isn't this cool? Isn't that awesome? I know I was politically incorrect and I called them, acorn people, oak Americans. I apologize if I offended you. Anyway, I think that's very creative. By the way, sometimes science is cool. Here's a really cool experiment you can do. And I literally mean it's a cool experiment.
Dump ice into water and add rock salt. Salt lowers the temperature below 32 degrees by lowering the freezing point. About 17 degrees Fahrenheit. This is exactly what we need. Add the water bottles. It's time to just sit and wait. After about 10 minutes, it's time. So if we're successful and we supercool the water, when we take it out, it'll still be a liquid, but it's well below freezing. It's 17 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 10 degrees Celsius. And just a little hit like this will create a bubble, and that bubble is enough for the first ice crystal to form. And if that first ice crystal forms, you get a chain reaction. All right, so here we go. It's still a liquid, no problem at all. Let's hit it. Ready? Here we go. Bam, that goes fast. Look at that.
Isn't that cool science? It's a great experiment for kids just to show them some of the interesting things that can be done. I'm also amazed when it comes to me being an inventor or engineering something or creating something, how well God designed us. Evolution is horseshit. Because when you think about how many individual functions it takes for us to come into being that actually have a purpose, you got to remember from an evolutionary standpoint, you have that feature because it served the purpose and you were the survival of the fittest, which means if you didn't have it, you got your ass killed, right? Check this out. I did not know this. Pretty awesome. And another interesting experiment you could do with your kiddos to prove the magic of God's design.
Did you know you could use Play-Doh to pull a crazy trick on your brain? And it all has to do with those weird folds we have in our ears.
Mark, this is weird.
Pearson, it's for science. As you can see here, when I blindfolded Pearson earlier with no Play-Doh in the folds of her ears, it was obviously really easy for her to tell where I was.
Right there?
But now that she has Play-Doh in her ears, watch what happens next.
What the? Like down here? It all feels like it's right here. I actually don't even know. If I had to guess, I would say here. That's really insane. I usually pride myself on my hearing. I guess not.
So those weird folds in your ears help you know where sounds are coming from because sounds bounce off these bumps and your brain learns how to understand these bounces. But if you take the bumps away, you can still hear the sound. It's just much harder to know where it's coming from, especially in the front and back. Which makes this a very useful hack for Marco Polo.
Marco!
Polo!
Gotcha!
Isn't that interesting? You have echolocation as part of your body. From an evolutionary standpoint, from Darwin's idiocy, remember, in order for it to be in your body, it had to be evolved that way, which means it came from nothing and only evolved by circumstance there. And so if you just take that one feature in your ear, that means there were all kinds of people that didn't have that in their ears, and because they couldn't tell where the beast was, they're dead. And only the survival of the fittest. Somebody had a curve in their ear. You have to explain how it got there. Well, they got bit by a pterodactyl, and then they found out that's what made it great, and everybody had it from that. Total bullshit, right? You have echolocation. You have triangulation. And with that, I want you to see a visualization, one of the greatest acts I've ever seen, of somebody showing physics of triangulation. It's actually very awesome because when you think about what he was really doing, it's an incredible, not only demonstration of physics, but feat of physics, because he has a separate amount of body movements to it. And then he ultimately starts playing music with it. That literally takes a lot of skills. And that's why humans will always amaze me and always disappoint me, but will always amaze me that if we just put our minds to it, we can do a tremendous amount of things. I hope you like That's Cool, right? Share this program. And remember, we're all in this together. Kelsey, prayers for your mom, right? And maybe too, many of you, will get into dancing with balls. Now, Kitty Lover might have to get over her dislike of balls, but hey, we all need new hobbies. I love you all.
This crazy world is telling you your sons can be daughters and your daughters can be your sons. When will the madness stop? Never. So you have to decide, will you comply or defy? They tell us all, you will own nothing, eat bugs, and be happy. Is this why America's largest food processing plants and food supply plants keep burning down? Do you really think this is a coincidence? Of course not. The system is telling us right to our faces what they have planned for us. You have a choice. Comply or simply defy their plan for us all. Defy the system's plan and execute your own plan. Abundant, safe, secure natural food supply. Introducing the Food Forest Bible. This bestseller by Jovan Hutton Pulitzer is the single most complete, executable, easy-to-follow plan for sustainable, self-managing food production for self-sufficiency and food security. For the first time ever, a coffee table, heirloom quality full color book which unlocks the ancient secrets of creating a food forest. Imagine planting in a way which requires no digging, no pesticides, and creates massive ancient food abundance. No fooling. Food forests are the ancient secret to planning and planting once. And have your own Garden of Eden, which will feed your families for decade after decade. Buck the system. Buck the New World Order and order your very own copy of Jovan Hutton Pulitzer's Food Forest Bible. Learn how to create a sustainable, self-managing, natural food production for self-sufficiency and food security for your family. Side yard, small yard, backyard, backlot, or even lots of acres, the Food Forest Bible works for everyone. Order on Amazon, hardcover, softcover, or ebook. Don't comply. Expertly defy the system.